And it can make a huge difference for the environment as well as I'm sure you understand. It takes 10 times the resources to feed someone living on a omnivorous diet as it does to feed someone on a totally plant-based diet. But the compassion part is just so important. I mean, the types of things that we do in the name of getting our animal products, like the factory farming, is just appalling. And we're spreading it around the planet because everybody wants to be like us. The thing is, they're all getting the same diseases we have, right? So I'm going to jump to that part, which is kind of I'm an interventional radiologist. So if you don't know what that is, I do image-guided procedures. So I do angiograms and angioplasties, and I do a lot of drainages. And basically, it's radiology, which is diagnostic imaging. But we do procedures through little tiny holes. So minimally invasive therapy or surgery. And so I call myself the high-tech doctor with low-tech solutions. Because if people would just eat right, most of them would not need my services. And about 80% of what we spend on healthcare in this country is attributed to diseases of lifestyle. And the amazing thing is,
again,
it's 80%. 80%. Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing number. And the mainstream medicine would not dispute what I just said. You'll see it, for example, if you go to the American College of Cardiology, they have a publication called Circulation. And is that from here? It's American College of Cardiology. They have the journal Circulation anyway. In 2008, they published an editorial saying that 90% of heart disease was avoidable. Even the cardiologists say that 90% is avoidable. And that's the biggest killer in this country. It's heart disease, right? And we act like the only thing we can do for it is to take Lipitor, get stents when we need to, have a bypass. Pastor Dave and I were just talking about the increased life expectancy after you have a cardiac bypass. You know what that would be? How much, as opposed to not having a bypass? It's 0. You don't live any longer after you have it. You may feel better briefly because it treats the symptoms, but it doesn't open up the arteries, it just bypasses the blockage. And people go on to continue whatever it is they're doing, either smoking or eating a standard American diet. Diabetes, because American culture is so powerful, we've exported it all over the world. And now there's about 380 million diabetics in the world now. In fact, if diabetics were a country, they'd be the 3rd largest country in the world. You know what I'm going to say next, right? So I told my brother-in-law that. He said, "Oh, I can run for president." So, and the sad thing is, I mean, right now for children born after the year 2000 in the United States, there's a 1 in 3 chance that they will develop adult onset diabetes. And for African Americans, Native Americans, and Hispanics, it's 1 in 2. 50% will develop adult onset diabetes. And what does that mean? Blindness, renal failure and dialysis, amputations, neuropathy. It's a terrible disease. And the standard treatments for diabetes don't really they don't reverse it. They slow it down a little bit. But people who do everything they're told by their doctor, take your metformin, use your insulin as prescribed, they still continue to get worse. The amazing thing is, if you go on a whole food plant-based diet, in about a week, you start to get better. I mean, it's really fast. And you think, well, how could it be that you could get better so fast? Well, the way to think about it is the standard American diet is basically like hitting yourself in the head with a hammer constantly. And then when you stop, your headache goes away, right? It doesn't take that long. And it's really pretty astounding how powerful this is. What I tell people is, if you don't believe it, just try it for 3 weeks. Because some of you did the Kickstart, right? Did you do the Kickstart?
Yeah.
The amazing thing is, I teach a 6-week plant-based nutrition course. It's actually worth 12 CMEs. It's accredited through the University of Rochester. We've given it for the 9th time. We just finished at Highland Hospital about 3 weeks ago. And 75 people took it, and I think, 20 healthcare professionals, including the chief of cardiology at Highland Hospital, took the course. And he's now a vegan. And he's lost 42 pounds. And actually, I just read this to Pastor Dave. I'll read to you. His name is Chad Teeters. John Teeters, right? But he goes by Chad.
Yeah, either way.
I said, "Would you mind sending me a testimonial?" He said, "Sure." And he said, let's see. He also said, "I have no problem with you using a testimonial for me, or even my name for that matter. I'm never concerned about using my name for healthy things." Should I read the whole thing?
Sure.
All right. Here you go, and edit if you need to. I came to a whole food plant-based eating very much a skeptic. As a cardiologist, I had frequently heard about the benefits, but largely attributed this to an overly excessive and largely unsustainable lifestyle change that real patients and myself would be unlikely to follow. I grew up in the South and fathomed myself to be somewhat of an aficionado of smoking meats and barbecue. Thus, my first goal was to do some literature review and prove the data was slanted or untrue. ... To no avail! Exclamation point. He actually read about it. I then decided I had to at least try it for myself to see if it was even feasible, and then to be able to provide first-hand account for patients when they ask. I have always had difficulty with maintaining my weight, and in recent years I had tried a multitude of diets. All were relatively successful but not sustainable, and ultimately left me hungry and unsatisfied. One of the things that appealed to me about the whole food plant-based lifestyle was that there was no calorie counting, food group selections, or special meals to purchase. I also found the internet, live/online classes/support groups/information sessions to be quite helpful and to jumpstart the journey. Now, just under 8 weeks into the journey, I can honestly say I'm a testament to this being a sustainable and healthy lifestyle change. I've lost 41 pounds. It's actually 42 now, since you wrote this well. Probably more since I haven't talked to him in at least a week. In that 8-week time, so 41 pounds in 8 weeks. And I feel as energetic as ever. I used to be able to get by with 5 to 6 hours of sleep, but in recent years struggled if I didn't get 8 hours. My blood pressure had been as high as 170, and I'm fairly certain I was at least borderline diabetic. My blood pressure is now 123. I no longer get as many headaches. My adult acne has improved, and I no longer have heartburn, parentheses, which had become a significant issue for me. I eat a completely whole food plant-based diet without exception. I'm sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night, and this has allowed me to start exercising regularly again. I prefer more than 5 to 6 hours myself, but that's what he wanted. And he didn't want to be sleeping 8 hours, but he felt like he had to. I now feel comfortable discussing this with patients and recommend this as a treatment for their health. I truly feel content, and I've even learned to use my smoker to smoke vegetables.
Squash jerky, it's the best.
I've thus gone from the ultimate skeptic to an unflinching advocate. I feel satiated with my meals, and I'm enjoying trying new recipes and meals. I'm proud, if not completely shocked, exclamation point, to call myself a vegan, exclamation point. That's it.
Yay, that's terrific.
Will you share that on the
I will share it, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a fair number of testimonials I'm collecting. Actually, it's really amazing. You know, as physicians, we're trained to look for really big studies, and testimonials are really just anecdotes. They don't really count, right? But the thing is, anecdotes really do count, because you have enough of them, enough testimonials, and if everyone's always doing really well, it does mean something. It does tell you quite a bit, actually. And in fact, we all basically treat going to the doctor personally as an anecdote, right? You know, if you feel sick, you say to your friend, who would you recommend? And they say, well, I had good luck with so-and-so. Well, that's not very scientific, right? But you go to that doctor, he treats you and you get better, you say, yeah, it worked. And that's the word gets out. The trouble with these really big scientific studies is they often are worse than no study at all. That's been my experience. They look at all the wrong things, then they kind of develop a life of their own. So like the PREDIMED study that was all about proving that was the Mediterranean diet, that this was published in the, stop me if I'm going too long.
No, go ahead. This is interesting.
So it was published a couple of years ago in the New England Journal, and that proved that olive oil was good for you, and that's when people started drinking olive oil.
Oh,
and it proved that a low-fat diet was bad for you, or it wasn't as good as a Mediterranean diet that was either supplemented with extra virgin olive oil or nuts. Well, when we talk about a low-fat diet in our world, the kind of diet that Esselstyn recommends, the surgeon from the Cleveland Clinic, that's 10% from calories from fat, maybe 10 to 15% calories from fat. And if those people do it, if you have a patient who's having chest pain and is about to go under the knife for a bypass, and you put them on the Esselstyn diet, they're better in a couple of days. I mean it. It's just a few days. It's not long. Because the little arteries can open up really fast. The big arteries take a little longer, but as long as you're getting perfusion to your heart muscle, you start to get better. So that's 10 to 15% calories from fat, what we recommend. The low-fat diet, in the PREDIMED study, there was 7,500 patients. That was 37% calories from fat. It wasn't low fat. But this paper proved that low fat doesn't work. So, right? And the same thing happens with breast cancer. They say, well, you know, we've looked at the Harvard nurses study, whatever, and low fat diets don't help with breast cancer. You know? But those were all very high fat diets. They were all over 30%. So you have to really look at the papers, the original papers. That's what I do when I teach my courses. The last day we talk about how to actually read a scientific article, and you know what do the numbers mean? And with that study, which was thought to be huge, the media went wild with that, saying, "Oh, olive oil is great for you," right? All this stuff, and of course the olive oil industry loves it, right? Anyway, where was I going with this?
If people are interested in that, they can go to nutritionfacts.org and see Dr.
Right.
Greger. Have you ever gone to nutritionfacts.org?
Yeah, so one of our good friends is Michael Greger, physician. He actually went to, he's a little younger than me. He went to the medical school I went to, Tufts, and he was here in March speaking at the Academy of Medicine, and he's a lot of fun. He's kind of a wild man. If you go to his website, which is nutritionfacts.org, he has a new video almost every day. Talking about diet, nutrition.
Tremendous backlog of videos and an index, so any issue you're interested in, you just search it. And he's always looking at studies with a fine-tooth comb, really, analyzing them.
Right, he basically says, I read there's like tens of thousands of articles are written every year about nutrition in the English language. And he says, and I read, my staff, I read every single one of them, so you don't have to. And it's pretty fascinating. So he was here, he has a new book called How Not to Die, which is a lot of fun. It's a really good book, and it sounds a little presumptuous, but actually each chapter is how not to die from heart disease, how not to die from cancer, how not to die from colitis, all these. It's kind of neat. But anyway, so Carol and I have been running the Rochester Vegan Society for 20 years, and we've been vegan for 25 years. We've raised 3 children who are in their 20s now, and they're all vegangelists. They all live in New York City. They're all musicians. So we've been doing that for many, many years, and basically as volunteers. So we never made any money off of it. When I taught my course, I always said, you know, it doesn't matter if you do what I'm telling you. I'm not making any money on this. I'm not selling any products. We don't have supplements or anything like that. We're not selling anything. We're just giving out education. So now we started a medical group called Rochester Lifestyle Medicine. So now I can tell people that I'm not only not making money at this, I'm losing money at this. So, Carol, can you sell another mutual fund? We've got some more bills. But anyway, we've been scrimping all our lives, so we have, we can last for a little bit longer. But anyway, so I'd be really interested in having you hear about what we do and spreading the word. What we do is, it's called as I told you, I teach this 6-week course, right? And on average, about 50 people take it every time, so about 100 people a year. This was an exception. At Highland, we had 75 sign up, which is a little big, but that's great. So anyway, over a year ago in March, this local businesswoman came to me. When I say businesswoman, she had been running very small things. And she's a single mom. She has an 8-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son. And she had lost 60 pounds. And you would never guess, because she's quite slender, actually. And really improved her health a lot. And she decided she wanted to teach the CHIP program. Now the CHIP program is based on these 18 standardized videos that are from Loma Linda, California, out of Loma Linda University. And it's been in development for about 25 years. It was one guy, Hans Deal, who's been working on this a long time. So I'll back up for a second. So does anybody know what a blue zone is? So a blue zone is a place in the world where people tend to live a long time, like they live to be 100. There's a few places like that. Can you know where they are? So like,
Japan.
Yeah, Okinawa, Japan is one, and the Japanese in general tend to live a long time. Loma Linda, California, exactly. Now, do they have dairy in Japan?
Not generally.
No, so they don't have any, and do they have osteoporosis? Not really. So all of a sudden, wow, these are really, really long-lived people, and they don't have osteoporosis, and how come they don't drink milk? How can that be? I thought everyone had to have milk, right? Because what happens when your refrigerator's empty? What's the first thing you do? Bring home a quart of milk and a pound of hamburger, right? But it's kind of because we've been brainwashed. And so Loma Linda, California is another place where people tend to live a long time. Sardinia, Italy. And what do these places all have in common? They get most of their calories from whole plants. They have some other things in common. They have social, they have get-togethers a lot. They're good, well-organized families and communities. But basically what we think it is mostly about the whole plants. And so that's where the term whole food plant-based came from. We try not, when we're first exposing people to this, we try not to use the V word, because it scares people off. Although, the cardiologist who sent me that testimonial, right, he ends it with, I'm proud to be calling myself a vegan. Now I'm wondering whether I can use this testimonial, because it's going to scare people off, right? So anyway, the CHIP program is from Loma Linda, and because it's based on videos, I don't have to be there. What we do is we train facilitators to show these videos. And because what happened was I told April came to me, I told you last March, with this idea that she needed a medical director so she could run this program and just kind of do it herself. She was a trained facilitator, she had paid to be a facilitator, learned how to do it, and she was going to do it with her family and run a small business, and she needed a medical director. And I said, get lost. I'm really busy, I'm studying for my boards. My interventional radiology boards I had to take them last fall, and I was studying for them at the time, and every 10 years I had to take those. I'm good for another 10 years, thank God. So the third time she came to me, I said, well, let me think about it, because she kept coming back to various meetings and talking to me about it. She was very persistent. I said, okay, Rochester area has about 1 million people. About 10% of them are diabetics, and that means there's 100,000 diabetics. All of them could benefit from taking my course. But I can only see 100 people a year, so that'll take me 1,000 years, right? Because there's 100,000 of them. So that even vegans don't live that. Even vegans don't live that long. So I said, all right, April, let me think about this. I thought of it, I said, okay, April, we're going to do this under one condition, that we train a lot of facilitators, and we're going to go really big. We're going to see tens of thousands of people a year. Because we need to change the culture. Because even if people learn this stuff, they go out in the real world, and they find it's not possible or it's really hard to do. So you need to change the culture, because everyone's surrounded by fast food joints and all that stuff, and our eating habits are very ingrained. So we put together this business. And the first thing we did was CHIP. Now ordinarily when people get trained as a CHIP facilitator, the CHIP stands for Complete Health Improvement Program. Originally it stood for Cardiac Health Improvement Program. And then they discovered that it basically makes everything better, especially diabetes. So ordinarily, if you want to become a CHIP facilitator, you have to fly somewhere in the country where there's a conference going on, usually a medical convention, and you stay an extra day, and you get trained to be a CHIP facilitator. And it's usually medical people, although you don't have to be a medical person to do that. She's not. So I said to CHIP, and I know Hans Deal, the guy who started it. So we'll do this with a couple of conditions. One is, you come to us, I want to train 30 people, and I'll pay for it. So I basically put up the money to have all these people trained. They all each have put up $100 themselves so that I wouldn't get any laggards. People had to be somewhat serious about it. And so we now have almost 30 facilitators trained to teach CHIP. And the other thing is, I said to CHIP, I need a territory. I'm going to invest a lot in this, and if I know what'll happen, this will become successful, and the University of Rochester will take it from me.
Yeah.
Looks like, right? They will say, oh, we want to do CHIP, and then you'll give them the kits, and it won't work, right? So they've agreed to that. So I have 9 counties, which is 1.2 million people. I wish I could.
Facilitators are great people. They're all kinds of specialties.
Yeah, tell them about the facilitators.
Well, they're nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, nurses, dietitians, social workers, psychologists.
Yeah, so
You can see them on the website, the team.
if you go to our website, which is on the card, Rock Life Med, we have there's a total of 7 physicians, including me. There's 3 nurse practitioners, a 4th one actually has just joined us. There's 3 physician's assistants, a bunch of social workers, a yoga coach, and cooking instructors and things like that. And luckily they're not all on payroll, they all have day jobs, because we're not really that busy yet. We just had our first group of 24 patients go through, and we do it in groups of 24. That's, we think, our ideal size, because they watch the video together, then they break up into small groups of 6, and then they come back and have a big group discussion. And they love each other. It's amazing. It's all about the social support. Like when we started to get toward the end they meet twice a week at the beginning. It's 2 hours each, like Tuesday, we did Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's 2 hours each night. And it theoretically only takes 9 weeks to get through the 18, but usually there's a holiday or something. So we tell people 9 to 12 weeks to get through the intensive lifestyle modification portion. And then It meets once a month after that in what's called Club CHIP, and they become champs. They enter the CHIP Alumni Maintenance Program, which is CHAMP, and April came up with that. And it's really the only place in the country that's doing it. We actually are billing insurance. We are doing this as a medical intervention with a healthcare record. We have an electronic healthcare record. We use Athena Health. If you listen to public radio, you hear of them advertising. So if we have a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection, we have a doctor's office. And we treat every single one of these group encounters as a group medical visit. And there's actually codes to bill for that. So we want this to be taken seriously by the medical establishment. If we just do it as a hobby, it's going to always be a hobby. So, because what we do is more powerful than a bypass. Why should insurance pay for a bypass and not pay for what we do? It's way cheaper. People do way better. They actually live longer.